blessed. I'm extremely blessed. Even though I've been in some horrible situations in life, I'm still blessed. I've been homeless. My father passed away back in 2019. I faced racism and discrimination at the workplace. And even though I've experienced all these negative things, throughout it all, I'm still blessed. I'm still alive. I still have a roof over my head. I have food to eat every day. So throughout all my hardships, I'm still blessed by the Most High. I am. And sometimes I get caught up with all my negative experiences with people, racism. Sometimes I dwell on my times of being homeless. And, I think about my struggle a lot, but that's kind of the negative side of things. Sometimes I do have to admit one of my flaws is I dwell on the negative instead of dwelling and thinking on the positive things that are happening in my life. I was homeless. Yes, that's bad, but I'm not homeless anymore. I have a roof over my head now. That's a blessing. So instead of me walking around all day and thinking, hey, poor me, I should be thinking, hey, I have it good. There are people who have it way worse than me right now. There are people who have bad, life-endangering health problems. There are people who are in prison. Lucky, I'm neither of those things. I'm not in prison. I don't have any bad health condition. So that's a blessing. I'm still healthy, walking around, living my life with my freedom. That's a blessing from the Most High, Ahayah. And I'm still young. So I still have the time to further develop and further progress in my manhood. These are blessings. So don't always dwell and think on the fucked up shit that's happening in your life. Think of the positive too. Yes, you have some bad things happening to you, but you also, on the flip side, you have some good things, that are going on in your life. You have food to eat. You have a roof to live under. There are people who are homeless, struggling, begging for change on the corner. You're not living that lifestyle. You've been blessed by the Most High, Ahayah. To live a bit more stable, to live in a more stable condition than the homeless, than the people on the corner begging for change and panhandling. You don't have to do that. And I know there's some people who are listening to my videos who are in that homeless situation. But the average person, watching my videos, the average black man watching my videos is not homeless. It's just living under the roof. It has food to eat every day. That's my average viewer. Just knowing by my common sense, But, hey, I know black men here in America, we have it tough here. Black men here in America, we face opposition from all angles of fucking society. Black men, we face racism at the workplace. Black men, we face racism going to a grocery store. We get followed around by security when we go shop for groceries. Black men, a lot of us get disrespected by our own black women. Black men, we're more likely to be arrested and face police brutality. So black men, of course, we do have it tough here in America. But hey, there's been times in history where we've had it way worse than how we have it now. So that in itself is a blessing. We're not slaves on a plantation. We're getting whipped and beat on our backs all day, every day. So, we don't have to, in today's age, sit at the back of the bus. You can sit at any part of the bus nowadays as black people. So, as black people, we know we have it rough. We know as black people that we have it worse, get treated worse than other demographics of people. But, we still have to be thankful to the Most High, Ahayah, as black people, as the Hebrew Israelites. We have to give thanks to the Most High, Ahayah, for allowing our people to still be alive. The fact that black people are still in existence is a huge blessing from the Most High, Ahayah. Do you know how much hardships black people historically have been through? Wow. We've been through some fucked up shit as black people here in America, even before America. Slavery was horrendous. Slavery was horrendous. Black people were, we've been through fucking hell and back during slavery. Of course, in slavery, the main target of oppression during slavery were black men, of course. That's because men are men, right? Men are the leaders of a community. Men are physically stronger than women. And the reason why men are physically stronger than women is because we as men, we're supposed to be the more physically imposing gender to protect women. Men, we're physically stronger than women because we're the ones who are supposed to be the leaders and protect them. Men are leaders naturally. Ahayah, the Most High, Ahayah created men to be leaders over women and children. Yes. So, as men, you have to have leadership qualities. Of course, right? The fact that like black people are still here is amazing after all we went through. And there's been an orchestrated agenda since, the beginning of this nation to break down black men. Because black men, like I was stating earlier, are the leaders of the black community. Men are leaders. So to destroy a race of people, you have to target its men. If you want to tear down a race of people, oppress the leaders of that race. And the leaders of a race are its men. So that's why historically black men have always been the target of oppression. And even throughout how black men were getting treated during slavery, we're still here today. You see black men everywhere you go, especially if you live in big city metropolitan areas. Black men are everywhere. Go down south, you see black men in Georgia, you see black men in Florida, everywhere down south and all throughout the United States. You see black men. And the fact that even though during slavery, black men were beat, lynched, limbs cut off, we had to work in the fucking plantation, pick cotton, and get treated like shit during slavery. Black men were treated horribly during slavery. And the fact that we had our life threatened so much during slavery, and we survived that. The fact that we as black men have survived slavery is a fucking blessing. You know how many black men were killed during slavery? You know how many black men were killed on those fucking slave ships even before they landed here in America? We have to be God's chosen. We have to be the Most High, Ahayah's chosen, because no other race of people in the world, in history, have shown the strength that black men, American black men, have displayed. No other race of man has been enslaved for 200 years and their limbs being cut off for 200 years, and you know how many millions and millions and millions of black men were killed during slavery. And the fact that black men, we had the strength to be physically strong to survive the beatings, and be spiritually and emotionally strong to survive the beatings and the negative behavior from the racist slave masters. Black men, we are fucking strong. No other race of man has endured what we've endured historically, and currently, still to this day, black men are going through hell in this racist society. So the fact that we are still here in existence as black men, as black people, that's a blessing. And yes, black people, we face racism, but sometimes we have to ignore the negative aspects of life and pay attention to the positive aspects of life, just to gain aspiration and motivation to move forward in life. You always have to see the good in things. There's always somebody who has it way worse than you have it. So give thanks, pray every day to the Hebrew God named Ahayah. Pray to Ahayah. Call him his name, out to his name. Pray to Ahayah and give thanks to him for your blessings every day, twice a day. Black people, we've been through hell throughout all across the globe. You know, not only here in America, all across the world. Black people, we live all across the fucking world. In every country and society black people live in, we face racism and discrimination. Everywhere across the fucking world we live in. And tell me I'm lying. North America has a history of slavery. Latin America, South America has a history of black people, African people, Hebrew people being enslaved. Africa got colonized by Europeans. Africa was fucking devastated by the transatlantic slave trade. You know how many bodies, you know how many people were stripped away from the continent of Africa? Probably about half of Africa's population was stripped away during the transatlantic slave trade, during the Arab slave trade, you know. And Africa still has like this, Africa is still like the second most populated continent in the world, even though half of their historic population has been taken away from the continent due to slavery. So that just shows you another blessing. Black people, we're blessed with genetics. We're God's chosen, we're the most high, highest chosen people. So the Most High made his chosen people physically and genetically superior to Gentiles. Gentiles are people who are not bloodline Israelites. White people are Gentiles. Asians are Gentiles. Most Hispanics are Gentiles. Hell, there's even some black people. Not all black people are bloodline Hebrews. Some black people are, come from the lineage of the white man, because, during slavery, a lot of black women were sleeping with white men and getting pregnant by white men. So some black people, some American blacks have, a European paternal line. And according to the Bible, you are who your father is. So you take on the bloodline of your father. You do not take on the bloodline of your mother. So some of black Americans have the European bloodline. That is their paternal line. Their father's father originates in Europe. And Europeans are not. Most Europeans, 99.8% of Europeans are not bloodline Hebrew Israelites. So, hey. But the Most High has spared black people. We're still here, even though we've been through fucking hell and back. There've been civil wars all throughout Africa, killing millions of people. The Biafra War in Nigeria killed over 1 million Igbo people from the Igbo tribe of southern Nigeria. 1 million Igbo Nigerians massacred in the Biafra War in the late 1960s. And Nigeria is still one of the most populated countries. I think Nigeria is probably like the 8th most populated countries in the world right now. And black people, we're blessed. Even though black people throughout history, a lot of us were killed during slavery. Millions of black people across the world were killed during slavery. Many black people in Africa. Millions of black people in Africa were killed during European colonization of the continent of Africa. During colonizations, a lot of the European powers instigated civil wars between different African tribes, so the Africans are fighting each other and causing these civil wars all across Africa, which killed millions and millions of people. Throughout the last 400 years, probably over 1 billion people of African descent across the globe within the last 400 years has been killed due to European or foreign hands. Europeans, they enslaved us black people, and killed millions and millions of us during slavery. After slavery, black men here in America getting lynched by white people of European descent. There's still black Africans in Arab countries today that are enslaved and being killed. The Arab slave trade happened before the transatlantic slave trade, and the Arabs were killing millions and millions. Man, the whole world has been killing and oppressing the children of Israel for the last 600 years. And they're going to have to pay, they're going to have to get their karma for oppressing Ahayah's chosen people. But even throughout all this, we're still here. Black people, we're not supposed to be here. Any other race of people who've been massacred of over 1 billion people for the last 400 years, any other race of people who would have been fucking extinct now. But black people, we were blessed with superior genetics to be able to reproduce a lot of offspring. Black men, we're naturally more fertile than other races of men are. And that's a deeper subject. That's definitely a deeper subject. And we know black men are more fertile and have the capability of getting more women pregnant than other races of men. We know black men are superior in fertility because of slavery. Most black men during slavery were not getting pussy. Black men were being oppressed in every type of way during slavery. You know, if you want to oppress a group of men, you have to strip their manhood away from them, right? And one way to strip a man of his manhood is to restrict him from having sexual access to women. Men, we're built for sex. Naturally, physically, genetically, men, we are built to have a lot of sex with a lot of women. That's why men, we have millions of sperm. Sperm, in case you don't know what sperm is, sperm are the sex cells that males have that get women pregnant. Women, they only have one egg. Women only have one egg, one sex cell every month. But men, we have millions and millions and millions and billions of fucking sperm. So that means, men, we're supposed to be the more sexually active gender over women. Women only have one sex cell a month, but men, we have millions and millions and millions of sex cells. It's because we're supposed to be the ones, not women. Women are only supposed to have one sexual partner. That's why they only have one egg. But men, we're supposed to be fucking out here. That's why we have millions of sex cells, sperm. So during slavery, to oppress black men, the white slave masters, they would restrict black men from having sexual access to women. Most black men during slavery, most black male slaves were not even getting pussy from black women. There are if you want to oppress a race of man, you have to emasculate him. So one of the ways to emasculate black men was to strip him away from his sexuality, from his strip the black man away sexually from his woman, and any woman for that matter. And that's how you break and tear down men. If you want a man to be weak, hey, the white man had to make some moves. And so during slavery, most black men were not having sex. Probably damn near probably about 95% of black men were not having sex during slavery. Only a small amount of black men were having sex during slavery. They call, the men who were having sex during slavery, the slave masters wanted certain black men who were physically gifted to reproduce stronger offspring. That's why, a slave master would go out and look at his slaves and see if certain of his slaves, were physically fit, if the slaves were muscular and had endurance. Slaves had to have certain physical qualities to be a good slave, because if you're outside 100-degree weather down south on a hot, sticky plantation, you got to have the strength to pick cotton, pick tobacco for 18 hours out of the day in that hot, humid weather. So you have to have the muscles to be able to work for long hours on hot fucking days. So to be an adequate, good slave who can work long hours, you have to be physically fit and muscular and strong. Those are some of the physical qualities that the white slave masters would look for in black men who are slaves. The slave masters knew that the black male slaves who were physically fit would produce physically fit offspring. Physicality, muscle mass, endurance, those are genetic traits that we inherit. And the slave masters knew that, so the slave masters would pick out black men who were physically fit and good slaves to reproduce. And if you were not that top 5% of black men who were physical specimens, the slave master would not choose you to get any pussy. If you were just an average Joe black man who was a slave and you weren't muscular, you didn't have that top level strength and you had a small frame, the slave master would not choose you to be the slave plantation buck who gets all the fucking pussy. You call these black men during slavery plantation slave bucks. There were a small amount of slave bucks chosen by the white man to get pussy, to reproduce. So black men, and you have to understand during slavery, the main race of man during slavery who were sleeping with black women were white men. White men had the most sexual access to black women during slavery. Use your common sense. Who do you think gets the vast majority of the pussy? The slave owner or the slave himself? The slave owner, of course, gets pussy over the fucking slave. It's common sense. The slave master has the power. The slave master is the one who are making the rules for the slaves. The slave master is the one who's fucking beating the slaves, killing the slaves, with their guns and things of that sort. So women naturally, they become dominated by the man who imposes his will on them and has control over them, which were white men. They had power over black men. So the most powerful men naturally are the ones who get the most sexual access in a society. So white men, they're the main ones who are fucking black women during slavery. But the small amount of black men and the lesser amount of black men who are sleeping with black women were out reproducing the vast majority, higher number of white men who are sleeping with black women. Even though during slavery, most of the men who were sleeping with black women were the men in power who were white men. White men, there were fucking more black women back then during slavery than black men were. But even though still, black men were getting more black women pregnant than white men were getting black women pregnant. And that's because black men were more fertile than white men. We can make more babies than white men. And slavery is proof of that. White men had more sexual access to black women, but they weren't reproducing babies at the rate black men were with black women. And you know that because black people today are of predominantly African descent. The average black American today, descendant of American chattel slavery, go and take a DNA test, and the average black American today will be 80% African, meaning the majority of our DNA, the majority of our ancestors were black people from Africa, Hebrews. So that means, during our over 400 year course here in America, even though most black men during slavery and after slavery did not have sexual access to black women, the small percentage of black men who were allowed to sleep with black women were making way more babies with black women than white men were, despite, the numerical disadvantage of sexual access that black men have. So the Most High Ahayah has blessed black men and black people genetically. We are his chosen people, and black people, we have to realize that we are blessed still to be in existence by the Most High Ahayah. All right, you guys, peace.